Welcome everyone here to Commission Shift's 9th Deep Dive webinar on carbon capture, use, and storage. My name is Paige Powell. I'm a Senior Policy Manager at Commission Shift, and we're here today to talk about the launch of the Texas CCS Community Resource Hub. I'm so excited to share this with you all. It's been a year-long project in collaboration with numerous partners from Rice University to community organizations. And we're really just happy to begin talking about how we can build collective power through education and, real grassroots advocacy work. So with that being said, Commission Shift is a Texas statewide nonpartisan nonprofit working to reform oil and gas oversight by building public support to hold the Railroad Commission of Texas, the state's oil and gas agency, accountable to its mission in a shifting energy landscape. And we do this through the lens and values of good government, inclusive decision-making, generational responsibility, global energy leadership, and most importantly, with and for the people of Texas. We're here today. Well, just a little bit of news, a little bit of background. If you hadn't heard, one of the Class 6 wells that is active and pointed to as a great example of this technology working is the Archer Daniels Midland Class 6 injection facility in Decatur, Illinois, which recently was released to the public that they've had ongoing leaks for several months now, and violating U.S. water law, failing to engage the proper monitoring and community notification protocol, and really just showing that the materials used in this project, most specifically the 13 chrome, were unsuitable to withstand the highly corrosive nature of CO2 in the subsurface. And so the plume migrated out of its intended zone, and they've had to stop injection because a second leak was detected. The EPA back in June knew about this leak at that time. So this news break only came in the last few weeks, but the EPA has been well aware of the leak since at least June, when they sent a letter to all of the CCS project developers explaining that the 13 chrome was no longer suitable for any part of the project and that needs to be overhauled. And so it really just speaks to the ongoing developments about this technology and how it's not yet safe and proven for rapid expansion and development. So with that being said, today we have a wonderful set of speakers for you. Our partners at Rice University, Dr. Weston Twardowski with the Center for Environmental Studies, and Uilvim Ettore at the Center for Research Computing, who have really given their time and attention to helping us build out a resource hub, a website, a tool that has maps and stories and links to more information to bring all of this to the public, right? It's all out there. We all got this information, and we'll talk to the data in a minute, but it's all from public resources. And so we compiled different data from various state and federal databases and brought them together, highlighting specific inequities, historical incidents, current and proposed infrastructure, to really speak to the current landscape of oil and gas development in Texas, and then what may be at risk moving forward. After the presentation, we'll have some time for question and discussion. And of course, the site will be, ready to go or launched. I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry. It'll be, public. It's already public for you to navigate and explore in upcoming months. So I'm going to stop right now because I really want to get moving with our guest. Weston, I want to start with you. Thank you so much for coming. It's been wonderful getting to know you the last couple of years since I've been involved with the Center for Environmental Studies through your Diluvial Houston initiative, and I'm just so glad we can continue to evolve our partnerships. Please, would you like to share what y'all are up to, who you are, what do you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paige. Yeah, and it's been wonderful getting to work with you over these last few years and develop projects like this together. As Paige said, I'm Dr. Weston Twardowski. I'm the Associate Director of Rice's Center for Environmental Studies and a lecturer in the Environmental Studies program at Rice. And to tell you a little about our center, we're housed in the School of Humanities, and the focus is on environmental research that foregrounds communication, culture, history, the arts, ethics, and we are dedicated to using those ideas to reach communities and collectively imagine our work towards building healthier, more sustainable worlds. With our students, we partner with organizations such as Commission Shift throughout Houston, the region, and the country to develop projects that build research and communicate that research out. We have a board of community fellows, including Paige right now, who helped to steer this work. And we have developed with the Spatial Studies Lab, which Uilvim will talk about briefly, or shortly, sorry, a variety of storytelling and mapping projects. And in addition to that, we run myriad other kinds of projects, such as a weekly radio program here in Houston called Gulf Streams with the Houston nonprofit radio station KPFT. We host conferences and symposia with partners, including an annual conference focused on environmental challenges across the Gulf Coast and an upcoming conference on the past and future of disasters. We finally arrange internships and collaborations with students, such as this project, across a range of different kinds of research projects that we aim to communicate out to broad audiences. If you're at all interested in learning more about our work, please visit inst.rice.edu, or feel free to email me directly at westonT@rice.edu, and be happy to talk about collaborations, the kind of work we do, and potential opportunities to bridge student projects and resources of the university to bring that out to community more directly.
Thank you. Wonderful. What is your next event? Because I know I spoke with we at a meeting. You were like, we have a calendar. There's stuff coming up, like a lot. So, what's your next one or two events? Do you want to just plug those a little bit?
Sure. So the next couple of things we have coming up, we just actually had a really wonderful conversation around energy justice and the transition, energy transitions in the Gulf Coast specifically, with some scholars and some different community organizations, including West Street Recovery here in town and the Texas Climate Jobs Project. And that is part of a series of events that is going to run throughout the year, focused on questions around energy justice specifically. So the next couple of events that are coming up on that are thinking about energy democracy and what it means for everyone to have access to power. And then later in next semester, so actually next year, we'll be hosting a conversation with the Baker Institute focused on degrowth. And that's framed as something of a debate about the merits of degrowth globally, locally, thinking about different approaches to economic growth and what that means in energy space. So those are two of the ones we have coming up. We also host events such as Jeff Vandermeer, who folks might know as the author of Annihilation, which was turned into a film a few years back. Jeff Vandermeer will be coming, and we're hosting an event with him at Basket Books in Montrose, for those of you who are Houston based. And that'll be actually on Halloween.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Thank you. I need to get on your email list if I'm not, but I know you keep everything. It's a wonderful program. Thank you for your great contributions to this important movement. Uilvim, I want to go to you. We just met, I want to say earlier this year, as came in, as we brought in, as Weston so graciously incorporated the Center for Research Computing at Rice and your skill set to help us bring all of this data together, right? The project, if I remember correctly, was like last year, I was like, oh, I have these 50 data sets I want to look at or whatever. I want to look at this, and like laid it out. And you're like, okay, we can do that. We'll pull it, we'll map it, we'll filter it. And it turned into 3 risk maps, right? So far. and really just an entire site. So do you want to speak to that a little bit? I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Just like to present myself again. So my name is Uilvim Ettore, Gardim Franco. You can call me Will or just Franco. I'm a GIS researcher here at the Center of Research Computing at Rice. I've been working with the Spatial Studies Lab since 2018, and I started working with diachronic maps that the goal was to tell the story of like historical cities. So to do that, we needed to work with very like complex and like sometimes really like raw data, historical data, and compile this data in a meaningful way using like web applications. So since 2018, I've been working a lot of data that have like multiple layers on it, a lot of like meaning and history behind. And in the last 2, 3 years, like the Spatial Studies Lab was incorporated to the Center of Research Computing. So now we became this big thing that's the data analysis, visualization, and mapping service that's provided by the center. So the start point of this project was to create like an interactive application that we can combine a vast number of layers to create like a meaningful application that you can do your own analysis and compare what's happening in Texas in terms of all the issues that we have and more focus to the CCS concept. So I can start like first, I'm gonna share my screen and show you the application itself. So you all seen the application? So I'm not going to go into the details of like how actually the application was the platform. But in a general aspect, we call this platform that we started like creating the application is called Experience Builder. Is a product from ArcGIS Online. So it comes from a company called Esri. So the idea was, okay, we need to compile this vast set of layers and see them in an interactive map. So instead of like starting like from the main page here, I was gonna start with the first initial idea that was the compilation into a map. So let me starting with the map. So here we have a map that we have, in this case, injection wells as a focal point, but the idea was drinking water risk. So we are combine multiple layers that you can turn on and off the visualization of it to really compare some aspects. So here we have all the injection wells in Texas. So as simple as turning on the layers. So let's see all the surface water to see all the rivers and creeks, and if they're like passing by, if they are close to injection wells, or let's say the groundwater, and we see which is the major aquifers in that area. So this kind of like visual aspect of like what is happening and where is the locations was the main goal. So in this platform, you have the possibility of turn and turn off like the layers, change the transparency, zoom, and like calculate the statistics. You can filter things like if I turn this one to make it easier. So for the injection wells, if I want to see just injection slash disposal, now we have the new number and we see where they are located. We can also see a legend like of that layer specifically. So we have all the types here. You can also like draw on top of the map. So if you want to create your own report and you see, okay, I see this concentration of wells near to this area that I'm focused, and I want to create a simple map just to highlight that region, you can just click and draw that polygon and really like create your map or use in your report. You can print, so you can put all the layers that you want to see here and print that. So generate like a PDF file that you can use later. You have measurement tools. So if you want to see the distance between a point and another, and in kilometers, and let's say here, feet. So you can change and calculate your measurements. You can also add your own data. So if you have something on your ArcGIS Online account, if you have one, or if you have a URL that can be a web service. So you see this layer in somebody else's website, there's a public link to it. You can connect to the map and see on top of the information that we're already providing. You can also upload things directly from your computer, so you can see at your browser without using any kind of external software. You can see your layer online. So if you see doing some kind of a specific analysis, you can bring your own stuff into the map and really create your research, answer your question, and goes on and on. So for all the maps, we also have a source information that sends you another page into the website that you can see where the information is coming from, and you can redirect to the website by clicking in each option here. So each item here, it's a layer inside the maps. So if you want to use this in your own applications later, you can really track down where they are, because they are public data. So we started with this compiling of maps, and we create three maps. So I'll go back to the first page. So the three maps that we created was, the first one was the hazard spills with explosions. The second one was the drinking water contamination, and the earthquakes and sinkholes. So the platform itself outgrow the idea of just have an application and become a hub with a full interface that you can navigate through and have more information associated to it. So when you go over to the main website and you want to see another map, you just click it and it's gonna be redirect to that other map. Or you can see the list on top. You have this menu that you can see, for example, we had the drinking water and the legacy wells here. So you can navigate through this maps very easily. The whole idea is also we have story maps that's also as your product, that is a storytelling tool that you can use the whole capability of ArcGIS Online of having maps to a storytelling narrative. And here we have two storytelling narratives. One is what's going on with the Permian basis, and the second one with the Gulf Coast. So if you just click, you're gonna be redirected to a new page where you can see the story map embedded inside of it. So my work in this project was to create this whole application based on the ideas and the design language and what the structure that Commission Shift was expecting to have. And we were able to build this data hub now that can be a very powerful solution to anyone that wants to understand what's happening in Texas and regarding CO2 emissions, the injection wells, and how this spatially wise is impacting or not certain regions. So yeah, and go back to page is.
I'm just sitting in awe because I've, been making the final edits on this the last couple weeks and really going through the entire site. And I just think it's so beautiful. We've got such an amazing collection of stories, information, data, images. What we are still missing, and this is on us, is the frontline community voices that are being impacted by these projects, right? Because they're not just a hole in a well and a desert, right? There are people that live nearby. There are people going to the hospital and having respiratory conditions and getting cancers and having to find new sources of drinking water, having to import their water because they can't use their well anymore. And that's sort of the next I guess addition to this project, right, is to bring that in. So this is just like version 1.0. We welcome all of you here to explore the tool and, give feedback, but we plan to continue to build out this resource as additional layers are, identified as more things come in. There's still stories to be told around hydrogen and LNG and really the methane issue, right? All of these are not unrelated stories. This is really like when we talk about cumulative impacts, right? This is it. This is it. This is it. So, yeah, I want to go ahead and I think I'll share my screen again real quick and just say a few more things before we open it up to questions. Let's see if I can find my slides. They are here. Okay. So now you can see that I wanted to share our coalition one more time. This is just a few of the amazing organizations that we've been working with for the last several months to really build momentum on these CCS projects and community power building. Because I don't want to do that yet. This is what I wanted to share. This is the hub website. We want you to go to ccshub.commissionshift.org. You can navigate there now if you want. I wanted to show this before we do Q&A in case you had any like specific questions. But I'm gonna go and share my screen. Do y'all see the, yes, okay. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat and I'll ask Minna to maybe keep an eye on that and like interrupt me if there's anything that comes through. But Will, I just wanted to kind of maybe chat with you about some of this and kind of go over it. The content here really just explains like this is what we're hearing about CCS. We're seeing the impacts all over. We didn't even go through the Gulf Coast story map, which I love because it takes us all the way from Beaumont, Port Arthur down to Corpus Christi. I failed to mention our amazing interns through the Gulf Scholars Program at the Center for Civic Leadership at Rice University. We had 3 undergraduates and a graduate student mentor who helped put together these story maps and all of the language for the main page and the resource hub. We couldn't have done this without them. Like when you have some passionate young folks who I wish everybody had a team of amazing folks to like help them with their projects, because we certainly did. So thank you to Paige, Ariana, and Anya for this great work. But this Gulf Coast story takes us through and projects on the Gulf Coast, what's proposed for the Outer Continental Shelf, in what's happening or what's, historically happened in the Golden Triangle with legacy development and petrochemical industry, refineries and things like that, brings us down over to Houston and the Ship Channel, Baytown, Channelview, Pasadena. I mean, this is where I grew up. I still live here, and we're getting more projects. They want to bring more projects to an already inundated region of historic environmental injustice. And that's concerning when this is being promoted as a climate solution, and a just climate solution at that. And so if you read through, hopefully you get a chance to read through this story, you can see several aspects like Petronova, for instance, which was a DOE-funded $1 billion project for clean coal outside of Houston. And, it's never been able to meet its performance targets, and has even been mothballed for a time when gas prices dropped, because its viability is related to enhanced oil recovery and being able to sell more oil, and perpetuate the fossil fuel industry, that's what the CCS is for, right? This one in particular. Down in Corpus Christi, they've got a myriad of issues. And so I just please take the time to go through this if you have. We've got our petition linked here for primacy, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I wanted to show you this advocacy toolkit because the intention behind, oh no, well, we got to fix that link. Well, I'm gonna stop sharing and go to the advocacy tool. Oh, because I opened it in the wrong window. Well, see, this is what happens when you get version 1.0. All right, I'm gonna share my screen again. It was flawless until that point. So here we just have some resources, a collection of one-pagers, brochures, reports, policy proposals, put together by our coalition partners. And that was the logo cloud that you saw earlier. We've got our Class 6 primacy petition. If you've been following along on our webinar, you know what that's about. But I'm gonna pause here to see, were there any other questions? Were there anything in the chat? Because that's kind of it. I wanted to get a sense of, you know, what do y'all think? What would you like to see? And
yeah, Siri just dropped a question in the chat. Yeah.
okay, thanks. Would it be possible to give a status update on the RSC's push for Class 6 primacy? Is the ball in EPA's court right now? Thank you for that question. So currently, and I'll start a little bit from the beginning for anybody who doesn't know what that means. The State of Texas Railroad Commission is applying for primary permitting authority or primacy over Class 6 carbon sequestration wells. Currently, the EPA has primacy for most of the United States, including Texas, but EPA Railroad Commission about 2 years ago put in their application, not quite 2 years ago, and it's been under review through completeness review, technical review, and once the technical review is approved, it'll be open for public comment. That'll be sort of like you know, primacy determination or whatever proposal that the public is allowed to give input on. We've heard through the grapevine that that's sort of expected. We're expecting that to come in 2025, that it likely won't happen by the end of the year. Although, you know, politics do come into play in these sorts of policies. And so, you know, depending on the outcome of the November election, that timeline could be sped up or slowed down. We can get into that if you want, but I'll just leave it at that. And so right now, our push to prevent primacy in Texas is a petition, which I'll share the link here in a minute, to say we don't want that to happen. But also, you know, we sent a letter to the EPA back in March about the Class 2 program and encouraging EPA to conduct an investigation of the Texas Railroad Commission Class 2 underground injection control program, whereby we're seeing all of these blowouts, seismic activity, you know, geysers, groundwater contamination incidents, right? And so the EPA wrote us back in May and we're like, yeah, that's a lot of good points. Thank you for your concern. We'll look into it. And so since then, the EPA and the Railroad Commission have been in communication about this investigation. We're currently FOIA-ing, requesting through the Freedom of Information Act, those documents and communications between EPA and Railroad Commission. In response to this investigation, the Railroad Commission decided to do their own counter investigation through the Groundwater Protection Council, which is a coalition of government water regulatory agencies in the South that are mostly in Republican, if not all Republican states. And so the Railroad Commission has engaged in a contract with the Groundwater Protection Council, a $20 million contract is what I heard recently, for the Groundwater Protection Council to do their own investigation into the Class 2 program, essentially to fight the EPA's decision or findings. So that's $20 million of our Texas taxpayer funds that could be used to plug wells leaking methane and but I digress. So we're really hopeful that with a continued and ongoing Class 2 investigation, this delay in primacy will stand in the primacy determination. We're also submitting a letter to the EPA that says, you know, given that the Archer Daniels Midland Class 6 well in Decatur, Illinois is leaking, right? Given that the state of Texas has an ongoing investigation into its underground injection control programs, and most notably, I'm sorry, I digress here. There was a new report that we just sent to EPA and submitted into the docket of the Ector County Class 6 permitting. Environmental Integrity Project looked into data from the Railroad Commission's severe non-compliance data and found that underground injection control wells, injection wells that inject CO2 had twice the rate of mechanical integrity test failures than injection wells that didn't use CO2. It was 20% to 9%. And so over their lifetime, CO2 injection wells failed at least one mechanical integrity test, 20% of them, whereas other injection wells, only 9%. So, you know, this seems to point to problems with the CO2 injection wells, and again, to the highly corrosive nature of CO2 in the subsurface to traditional concrete and traditional steel, right? There's a reason that CCS hasn't been deployed on the large scale for the last 50 years. And what I hear from the scientists and the geologists and the engineers in the field who, you know, have sort of defected from the main narrative is that it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and there's no way to keep it underground for 1,000 years. We don't have the materials to do that right now. And so we're seeing evidence of this in the Class 2 program in Texas, in the Class 6 wells in Illinois. And so with all of this damning evidence, we're urging EPA to stop moving forward with the primacy process, you know, stop permitting any CO2 injection wells and really give guidance to states that already have primacy to walk back some of these wells and really look at the safety of the projects. So I hope that answered your question. That was a really long digression, but I feel like I had to set up the whole story. So I appreciate y'all's patience. If there's not any more questions, we'll give it another minute or so, but that's pretty much all I had to share. You know, the site is yours now. Everybody go explore. I'm going to share my screen one more time and make sure I hit all of my slides that I wanted. So once again, the website is ccsHub.commissionshift.org. You can also do bit.ly/CCSHub. Let's see. Oh my gosh, it made me go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, well, let's try it like this. Okay. So right now, if you want to get involved, next steps, right? If you're hopping mad and you want to say, don't bring this to my community, this is what's coming soon, right? Right now, there's a current comment period on the ADM proposed enforcement rule, you know, because ADM had to stop injecting and EPA's got an enforcement rule proposal down. So you can comment on that. You can comment on the Ector County Class 6 draft permits that are open for public comment now. This is the first, these are the first Class 6 permits in Texas. And they're being permitted in the same formation that's already blowing out in these orphan wells and dry holes all across the state. And so there's a myriad of issues with this project. But honestly, we don't know what they all are, because when you go to look at the draft permit, it's more than half redacted, right? You can't see all of the data about, their modeling assumptions and the other things. So luckily, EPA wanted to give a 30-day comment period on this. Our organization and a number of others requested an extension, and that was granted by another 30 days. So you have until November 6th to, put any of your thoughts there. Also heard from the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration that their CO2 pipeline safety rulemaking will be open before the end of the year. So heads up for that. And then to your question, Siri, we're looking at a Class 6 primacy public comment period and determination sometime in 2025, pending the outcome of the November election. So if you haven't already signed our primacy petition to keep primary enforcement authority of CO2 sequestration wells under the control of the EPA, please sign that and share it with all of your people. We need as much help as we can get. Take this hub, go look at it, share it, let us know, send me an email if you have any insights, additions, comments, broken links like the one we found today. Let me know what you think, because we'd love to make this the best tool for communities that we can. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Were there any more questions before we go? Thank you, Minna, for dropping those links in the chat to the public comments. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Everybody take care.
Bye.